Eric Talaska Econito channel with a multi-topic playlist. Going to have an unorthodox, professional, and unbiased analysis of Brian Laundrie and Gabi Petito. It's unbiased because I have no affiliation with any organization as far as being paid by the organization or obligated with them. I am not. Recently, I purchased a house close to the Laundries and the Carlton Reserve around Northport and Venice, Florida. First, I want to give my condolences to Gabi's loved ones. Interesting thing about my background, incidentally, is that I lived in a camper van full-time for about 6 years recently before moving here. I didn't live with any female, but I traveled with a few of them a little bit. And I can tell you from experience, the Ford Transit Connect that Gabi had and shared with Brian was definitely too small of a living space for a couple to keep their sanity long term, and so that could be a big factor. That's another one of my first points of how this video is very unorthodox and very different from anything you see in the media. I have worked in television news media, and I can tell you from what I've seen with the influx of media coming to the Northport, Venice area, Florida, I've gotten up close and personal, very up close with them, and I identify a lot of things regarding their ego, and I can tell a lot of it is sensationalization of something that on a worldwide or national scale shouldn't be given this much attention. And so one of the things I want to get at is that the news media really has a main goal is advertising revenue. To achieve the advertising revenue means more eyeballs on their channel. How do they do that? Well, they need to have interesting stories and very dramatic stories. And so recently I went to the Carlton Reserve in Florida, which is nearby both the Laundries and where I live, and I encountered this. This is apparently a Florida Wildlife Conservation airboat. And what you have here is, looks like, I'm not sure, I can't tell for sure if that's a wildlife officer right there, but you see the camera crew there. So apparently they were with probably a news team, and they were staging this whole thing in an area where Brian Laundrie would not be found, because the reserve is on this side where the mouse is, and I was standing on the other side where it would be too difficult for someone to cross this river safely. So what I'm getting at is this was just a big put on here to try to sensationalize, because what they were doing is revving the engine a very particular way and getting in a setting in a very particular way to make it look interesting. So they, in my opinion, they weren't really focused on anything relevant to the case. It was just a big put on. It was kind of like a movie set. There was nothing natural about this whole situation. It just looked so fake. And it reminded me when I worked in the news media in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in a smaller market. Well, actually not smaller than this market, but also a small market. The kind of staging we did, it just reminds me of it. And it was very largely about advertising revenue. Let's jump to another topic here. I said I'm not affiliated with another organization in the sense of being paid or obligated, but I am affiliated with the FBI, but I'm not an employee of them. I am the correct term I'm looking for, a collaborative partner with the FBI, CIA, Department of Homeland Security, etc., through an umbrella organization, which I will get into. You elect me for president, I will disclose that whole scenario to the public. So, and I have a lot of experience inside many military bases within the United States. And I can tell you my experience in dealing with the security forces of the Air Force, the military police of the U.S. Army, but in particularly the Air Force and Navy law enforcement. I had a couple run-ins with Air Force security forces one time about 2 years ago, and those officers got in some pretty big trouble, I think. I don't know exactly what happened with the case, but it wasn't pretty for them because they didn't know who they were messing with. You know, I'm always just plain clothes, and they don't. You don't want to mess with me, I promise. And so, 5 officers on Vandenberg Air Force Base messed with me a couple of years ago, and I think they highly regret it. So, in my opinion about the FBI and dealing with them, now one reason why I became affiliated with them is to see what they might be hiding that the public should be knowing. And I found some things, but I can't share it with you yet, or I'll lose my access to their intranet. But anyway, so I wanted to submit a tip to the FBI because I live near the laundries, and I know of a good hiding spot where there are people hiding in the woods, and I wanted to let the police know about that. But it didn't work because look, although I was hearing all over the news, submit tips to the FBI, you can't unless you're reporting a crime, or else you could get in trouble. And so I backed out. Look what happens when you submit a tip to the FBI. So here it says, submit a tip, emergencies, call 911. Report threats and crime. General public, members of the public can report violations of U.S. federal law or suspected terrorism or criminal activity. A tip doesn't follow under that if you're just, because it's not a crime for there to be a hiding spot in the woods. You can legally hide in the woods if it's on city land during the day. You probably can't legally be there at night, but you can loiter on city property during the day. That's not a crime. So some of those people in the woods aren't necessarily, I don't have evidence they're committing a crime. I don't go out there at night and see if they're sleeping there. It seems obvious they are, but I don't have evidence. And so I don't really have anything to report that is a threat or a crime. But I had a tip. And so the FBI is flaunting, in my opinion, my professional opinion, with a legal background and quite a lot of education, they're incompetent and contradicting themselves, and it's frustrating to me because this is an organization with billions of taxpayer money on hand to dispense of towards something that we're paying them to do, and they can't even get the very basic little first step fixed. The very first part of their organization, they don't even have their shit together on this, how to receive tips. It just blows me away what the budget they have, and they don't. All right. And so what's so freaking annoying is that sometimes law enforcement will protect the criminal and try to go after the Good Samaritan, which was my case at Vandenberg Air Force Base, SpaceX, in near San Luis Obispo, California, Santa Maria, California area. I was doing a Good Samaritan act, and 5 officers came charging at me with, one of them had their finger on the trigger. Yeah, on a high-power automatic rifle, and the other one was telling me I committed a felony and all this stuff over and over and over. So I filed a claim against them for what they did, but I'm not going to pursue a lawsuit because it's just too much trouble. And then we get into another subject. The entire United States legal system is corrupt and it's too inefficient. And so that needs to be overhauled. But let's get back on track here with the police and FBI. Why am I bringing these wildlife up? Well, here's another thing you're not going to hear in the media is that, oh man, I shouldn't have to do this. All right, so all those ATVs and those all-terrain vehicles going out on the Carlton Reserve nearby where I live, what's happening is that they're unnecessary. Well, let me back up a little bit. Okay, I'm all for law enforcement going out to the Carlton Reserve where Brian's silver Mustang was found, or whatever vehicle it was, and bringing. So what they should have done, and they did do it, they brought police dogs and Brian's clothing from his house with his smell on it. Trained the dogs. Here's what the smell is we're looking for. Help me find that smell. Those dogs could never find that smell anywhere on the Carlton Reserve. That's when you stop. You say, we made a best effort. There's nothing practical more that we can do. If our dogs can't pick up the scent, we don't think he's out here. But no, what do? They go, oh, here's my chance to be a big shot. I'm this big shot police officer or FBI agent in Northport, Venice, Florida, and I'm bored out of my mind with all this taxpayer money. What am I going to do? Well, let's go look for one guy who probably killed his girlfriend, and we can't bring her back because she's probably, at that time when they started the search, they didn't know if she was dead or alive, but a reasonable person would suspect that she's probably dead, even if not. Well, let's move forward. When they found out that she was murdered, that's when they should stop looking for Brian, because if they find Brian, that's not going to bring Gabi back. So what good is that going to do to find him? Okay, they find him and they say, did you murder Gabi? He says, no, I want to speak to my lawyer. Well, guess what? Now the taxpayer has to put up millions of dollars to bring this guy to court. And what's the best case scenario? Okay, we'll convict him, put him in the jail for the rest of his life at the taxpayer's expense. What good is that going to do anybody? Nothing. Let the guy go to Mexico or whatever he was going to do. Flee to Mexico. He'll fit in there. They might like him there. They might like those kind of people there in Mexico who kill other people and protect him there. I don't know. But I don't want to pay for that kind of stuff. I want the money to go towards more practical things like protecting wildlife instead of destroying it. So what I was getting at, all those ATVs going on the Carlton Reserve are trampling over things like gopher tortoises, gopher tortoise nests. Here, one there, the tires collapsing the burrow that they dug with their eggs in there and everything. You know, these things are more precious than most people. We have, what, about 8 billion people on the planet doing more harm than good. And here are keystone species like panthers, alligators, snakes. We need these in Florida to help us preserve a sustainable environment and provide beautiful nature and wildlife for our future generations. We can't be going out trampling it all down looking for one guy that isn't going to solve any problems finding him at all. I don't care about that guy. Just let him go to Mexico or whatever. I don't want to pay for him to be in prison the rest of his life, and I don't want to pay to have these crooked lawyers defend him, and for us to hire crooked lawyers to go against that crooked lawyer in court and take up all our TV time that could be used towards something more productive. Now look, I do want them to find this guy, but I don't want them to do it at the expense of millions of dollars that could be used towards more critical issues. And let me say another thing about those animals that they're trampling on in the Carlton Reserve. Those are sentient beings that have all the same feelings that humans do. All of our senses, sight, smell, touch, pain, everything like that. And not only are those ATVs trampling over that wildlife, it's terrorizing them with the noisy sounds of the ATVs and the sights of it. It's terrifying wildlife out in the Carlton Reserve. And those law enforcement say they're going to do that to every acre in the Carlton Reserve. And that's horrible. And they're spewing out diesel and gas fumes by the thousands of gallons. What I think the resources should be better spent towards regarding the law enforcement is work on other things that are more rewarding, and maybe we should defund the police if they have this much extra resources and money to go after one person at the expense of our environment and tax money and everything. Maybe they have too much money on their hands. Let's defund them. Let's redirect a lot of that money into a better education system. Let's teach our children ethics in grade school, like maybe from the 3rd grade on up. Teach them ethics to prevent people like Brian from turning into the monsters that they turn into. Actually, at the time of this video, there's no evidence that Brian murdered Gabi, but so let me reword that. So I'm not accusing him of murder, but I can say a reasonable person would definitely suspect him of murdering Gabi. Let's put it that way. All right, so yeah, and that would be based on, well, all of the things mounting up, especially going off in hiding. I mean, geez. After his girlfriend being found dead with homicidal evidence. All right, well, lastly, let's go touch on this thing called me. So since very young age, I have been aspiring to run for president of the United States, but society has in a lot of ways pushed me down, including family, friends, not all family. My mother's probably the biggest believer in me, if that says something, but when I was in the Army, they pushed me down when I was trying to go up, and lots of jobs I've had 25 jobs. But anyway, let's jump right to in 2016, 2018, I think late 2018, I was running, put in a, not with the federal, hold on a second. Not with the election committee, the FEC, Federal Election Committee. I haven't registered with them, but I did contact all the main media, most of the main media around the country, and several talk show hosts to try to get an interview for running for president of the United States. And not just that, but with some topics that I want to make relevant to this Brian Laundrie and Gabbi Petito case of wasted resources looking for Brian. Yeah, so the media wouldn't give me the time of day. No response from any of the media. A big effort by email, phone, press releases, American, what's that called? API, American Press Association, is that APA? Anyway, all those big ones, all the big media I contacted saying I'm running for president, but check this out. In the headline, or maybe not in some of the headlines and the first couple sentences of the press release, I said that I want to create a Department of Peace and revamp the Environmental Protection Agency, particularly create a Department of Peace. Well, guess what? That would potentially save the lives of not one person, not 1,000 people, not 1 million, not only just 1 billion, but possibly all life on Earth, to avert global thermonuclear war, World War III, and possibly after that a World War IV if we still live past World War III. So my proposal to have a Department of Peace, funded in large part by the defunding of not all of the military, but defunding of the military hardware in particular, and instead put more money into the Department of Peace, which is a group of qualified, at this time I think it should be a group of highly qualified sociologists and psychologists who are cross-trained in peace negotiations. And so there aren't a whole lot of those out there, but I would want to create them, meaning create new curriculum in college and in high school prep to prepare for a large department of the United States government that isn't looking for skilled people in military hardware, but rather sociological interactions with terrorist groups, other countries, other threats we have in order to promote peace and stability. So what qualifications do I have other than being smart for that? Well, I actually promoted peace and stability in the for the nation, and then for that would be for the world too, says the Secretary of Defense of the United States of all armed forces. So yeah, here I am in Northport, Venice area, Florida, ready to do this, ready to save the world, and I'm surrounded by media trying to get ad revenue as their primary goal, and maybe some television exposure and notoriety covering the story about this one guy missing. Here I am, come interview me. I'm ready to talk about how to potentially save billions of lives and future generations so that the human race can survive. Another way we can do this is to accelerate our space travel. People like Elon Musk working on that in particular. So we have to get out there in case we destroy this planet. So stupid people in the media, do you guys really want to put so much resources into little, I mean, Brian Laundrie's not a little petty thing, but sure is compared to peace and stability of the world, and someone wanting to take care of that situation who's not tied to, I'm not tied to any organization, I'm not obligated to anyone, not the FBI, nobody, I'm not under contract with anyone. I can say anything I want as long as it's not threatening and it's legal. And so as a candidate for President of the United States, you can count on me to fight for what's in the best interest of not just United States citizens, but all life on Earth. And that means United States citizens have a much longer future if we can protect all of life on Earth, because this is an ecosystem that we have to take care of, or we are all doomed. which seems to be the case if we keep on going the way we're going by electing people who are not as qualified to run the country as well as many other people are. I'm not reading from a teleprompter. This is not rehearsed. I had no coach. I had no script. I had a couple notes, but I didn't practice this. This is an unedited video. All of the jumping you see, the screenshots changing, is simply hitting the pause button. This video was not put in a video editor or anything like that. I just pause once in a while just to collect my thoughts, think about what I'm going to say next. So if I can put this, the most intellectual video created probably in the past 10 years on the internet, all by myself with a small budget, imagine what I can do if I had a team, a political team, a political office, and a lot of coaching and training and intelligent people around me, how much further this could progress into reality. So please do anything you can to help share this video.